Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about this ever so popular topic of defunding the police. This has been a major talking point over the last year and a half or so amongst anti-police activists, or people who they're saying they're not anti-police. They're saying that they're really for reforming the police. I really don't believe that. I think they're definitely anti-police, and I think that they're irrationally anti-police. Maybe I'll be able to demonstrate that in the making of this video. But one thing that's really bothered me about this whole defund the police thing is that initially, and this really did begin around the George Floyd incident. People in Minneapolis were the ones that started it first, saying that we need to defund the police, we need to abolish the police department. And as a matter of fact, they put a ballot initiative up to actually do away with their police force and make it something completely different, which I have an article I can address that here in a moment. But here's what brings this up, and I have some more facts to back up my position in this. So here's an article by CNN, which is definitely not a right-wing organization by any stretch of the imagination. If you believe that CNN is a right-wing or even a down-the-middle news agency, you should go seek medical or mental health attention. Anyway, so here's the headline. Defund the police encounters resistance as violent crime spikes across the country. 1 year since nationwide movement sparked calls for slashing police funding in favor of other non-traditional forms of public safety, it is not clear whether any city achieved anything resembling what protesters demanded: a massively defunded police department. And then it goes down a little bit further to talk about how this defunding thing has been used as a Republican talking point, and that the Democrats don't necessarily support defunding the police, although some of them do, like this Rashada Tlaib. And here was the main takeaway from the article here that I had. It appears that all of these are serious barriers for police reform focused on defunding or abolishing the police. These are all words that are used interchangeably by people, and it's very frustrating to me because if you disagree with their idea of defunding the police or abolishing the police, they'll say, well, you're a bad guy because you don't want reform. And we all know that reform is a good thing. Everybody wants reform. I really don't think what these people are calling for is reform. Here was a story that I found. This is dated September the 7th. Said a judge rejects Minneapolis ballot language on policing. Down here into the story, a judge struck down a ballot language on Tuesday that aimed to replace the Minneapolis Police Department with a new agency, saying the wording is misleading and unworkable. That's a trend with a lot of these people calling for defunding the police or abolishing the police or wanting police reform, because they don't really know what they're looking for, and they don't know how to achieve their goal. So they kind of bloviate a lot of these terms that sound good and make people feel good and sound positive, but they don't actually know what they're going to do, and they don't actually have a plan for how they're going to get there. Now, with this topic of how the defund the police encounters resistance as violent crime spikes, one thing I would like to touch on there is, if you want to know what it's going to look like after you put these reforms in place, just look at what we're seeing now. And people will say, well, the police haven't been defunded. I've actually seen that in comment sections quite regularly, where people will say, oh, what's happened? Did your pre-crime department get defunded? Well, as a matter of fact, it did. Because over the last year and a half or so, the police have been told to stop doing their job. Some of it's come down through changes in laws. Some of it's come down through changes in policies. And some of it is just that the officers are picking up on what people are saying. So some organizations have put out polls asking if citizens want more police interaction or less police interaction. And a lot of these polls are saying that people want a lot less police interaction. Police officers are less likely to go out into bad neighborhoods or high crime neighborhoods and put their neck on the line trying to get guns and stuff like that off the street, because they don't feel like they're going to have the backing of the administrations who are in charge of their departments. There is a substantial push, it's undeniable, to have officers brought up on criminal charges. It's almost like it's a badge of honor for some of these politicians to find an officer that they can go ahead and charge with a crime. So officers are not willing to put themselves out into a position where they might be doing their job and do nothing wrong, but since a politician doesn't like how they did their job, they can actually be charged criminally, where that's not something that was happening in the past. So the police are definitely being less active in our communities, and it's obvious because violent crime has spiked. Now, there are some people who are going to say that the reason crime spiked in 2020 is because of COVID. They're going to say it's not just this, it's because COVID and people are all bottled up and all the other stuff. And they're going to point to these annual totals. So, here's this is for the city of Columbus. I don't have the homicide stats for a lot of these other cities, but this one, it does show that in 2018, these are homicide numbers. There were 86 homicides in the city. Oh, this is at this time of year. Sorry, I'm going to go to this chart. So these are the annual numbers for homicides in the city of Columbus. 2017 was the year that the city of Columbus broke their previous homicide record. And that was a big deal back in 2017. In 2018, homicides fell down to 116. 2019, they fell down to 105. And in 2020 was a new record of 178 homicides. A lot of people are going to say, look, this wasn't the anti-police movement. This was COVID and a lot of other things that contributed to that. Well, I want to scroll down a little bit to these are the month-by-month numbers. So if you look at 2020, month by month, January there were 10 homicides, February there were 9, March there were 9, April there were 6, in May there were 9, and then starting in June, there was this large jump. So 16 in June, 16 in July, 17 in August, 22 in September, 24 in October. November, for some reason, was a little bit more normal with 11. And then 23 homicides in the month of December. So starting in June of 2020, the homicide rate roughly doubled on a month-by-month basis. Does anybody know what happened in June of 2020? It wasn't that COVID hit. That is exactly when all of this defund the police stuff started. There's also, along with the spike in homicides, this is local reporter to Columbus, Lacey Crisp. She's highlighted some of the numbers as far as the number of felonious assaults that have also gone up. So far in 2021, whenever she posted this, there had been a little over 1,100 felonious assaults. The majority of those are going to be shootings. A lot of those shootings could have very easily become homicides. In 2020, at this time, there were 969. And then you go down to the previous years, and it's pretty obvious to see we're close to doubling the rates of violent crimes that we've seen in all those other years. One thing that I find amazing is that this article was posted on December the 22nd. So this is a very new article. This is about Minneapolis and how even though the judge rejected their ballot initiative, they're still trying to push ahead with this defund the police movement. It boggles my mind that these people have seen what's happened and the results of their actions so far, and that they're still willing to push forward on this. In my opinion, this is extremely foolish, and there's a lot of people suffering because of the whims of some misguided activists and politicians. If people don't wake up, there's going to be a lot more dead bodies on the ground. That's very unfortunate. Those are going to be my thoughts for today. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.